Welcome to Taboo Texarkana, the podcast where we dive deep into the untold stories, spiritual journeys, and the topics people usually don't talk about. I'm Colton Bolts, your host, inviting you to join me as we sit down with incredible individuals from Texarkana and beyond. Together, we'll explore personal growth, challenge societal norms, and embrace the uncomfortable truths that shape our lives. This is a space for authenticity, transformation, and fearless conversations. So whether you're here to reflect, to learn, or to be inspired, you're in the right place. Today, I'm honored to welcome Brittany Carder, a local yoga teacher, business owner, and leader in our community. We'll be diving into her journey with yoga, her spiritual path, profound experiences with plant medicine, and how the loss of her son, Luke, expanded her consciousness and taught her invaluable lessons. This is a heartfelt conversation that you won't want to miss. Welcome to the show.
Brittany Carder, welcome so much to the Taboo Texarkana podcast. Thank you for being the first guest ever.
Thank you.
Have you ever done a podcast before?
I've never, so this is my first time, and I'm really honored to be your first guest.
I'm honored to have you here. You mean so much to me and Cassie and our family and the community, so I couldn't think of a better guest.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it because we have so much to talk about and not a whole lot of time. So can you share a little bit about your journey into yoga and what initially drew you to it and what inspired you to become a yoga teacher?
Okay, so I think we can all agree that yoga is one of my very favorite things. I was drawn to yoga really as part of a spiritual journey. In 2012, I started what I call a conscious spiritual journey, and yoga was just calling to me. And even before that, really, it was always kind of in my realm of awareness, and I was interested, but I never really made a move to start practicing until probably 2014, 2015. And I I started with videos. I think I started with DVDs. And then I went to an actual yoga studio in Amarillo, Texas. I drove about 45 miles from where I lived to go to that studio. And I cried through the whole class. And I was like, oh, this is for me.
What kind of yoga class was it?
Oh, I don't even remember. It was just like probably a vinyasa, movement-based. It was a movement-based class. And it wasn't particularly, there was nothing that I can even really tell you about that class except that I did cry on my mat. There was just like an emotional release happening. And I thought, okay, this is why I've been called to yoga. And so I started practicing off and on. And then in 2017, a teacher that I had, Jen, she used to own Texarkana Yoga. She suggested that I do a teacher training. She thought I would be a natural. And I signed up, but still not thinking that I would ever be able to get up in front of a class and teach. And I can say that now it's my favorite thing to do. So that's how I got to yoga.
Yeah, so your first class was in Amarillo. Are you from Texarkana?
I grew up in Texarkana. I was born in Amarillo, moved to Texarkana when I was about 3. My mom's from here. Went to school here, graduated from Texas High, left and went back to the Amarillo area and lived there for 13 years. And then I came back to Texarkana in 2015 and started practicing at Texarkana Yoga.
Okay. So Texarkana Yoga was kind of home base.
That's what I always called it, my home studio. That's where I really began my yoga journey, I would say.
Shout out to
TTP
Yoga.
Yes, absolutely. It's the longest standing studio in Texarkana.
10 plus years?
Yeah.
So, speaking of yoga studios, Thrive Yoga and Wellness was such a beautiful space for so many of us. What was the vision behind starting the studio, and what were some of your favorite moments from running the studio?
Well, thank you, first of all. Thrive was a labor of love, for sure. In 2020, October of 2020, I and 2 other yoga teachers, they were my partners at Thrive, Amber and Venus. We had a vision for a yoga studio that was just very inclusive. It felt like a good time. It felt like there was an opportunity to create another yoga space in Texarkana. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but we did decide to kind of branch out on our own and start Thrive. And it went really well. We had a lot of people that really supported us, and enjoyed coming to the studio. And that was the vision, just an inclusive place, a place that people felt comfortable and that could really support the journeys of other people.
Yeah. So I remember I had started dabbling into yoga and was considering being a yoga teacher, and I had connected with Amber, and she was teaching at Texarkana Yoga, and I thought that was going to be my connection to teach at Texarkana Yoga. So when y'all moved, I was all on board, and I did my first class with you, Amber, and Venus.
Yes.
I felt the way I felt before that class, before this podcast, a little anxious, a little nervous. And so what were some of your favorite moments running the studio? Like,
I think, you know what, I think my favorite thing was that I was able to have my kids there. And maybe that wasn't everybody's favorite, but it was my favorite. I just loved being able, that's one of my favorite things about business ownership, is whenever I can have my family involved, and being able to have my kids there was so important to me. So probably that, and it was just, I love to speak to people who practice. And so as an owner, not only the people in my classes, but in other people's classes as well, I would get to hear them talk about how yoga was changing their life, that they were sleeping better and their relationships were improving and their backs weren't hurting as much. And so countless moments of connection with other people, just hearing how yoga was improving their life.
So you were much more available, and you were there 24/7, so you got to hear these stories versus you teaching an hour on Tuesday and Thursday.
Absolutely. That was the difference. And I loved that, even though it came with more responsibility. That was a huge reward of owning the studio, was that I got to hear more of what was going on with the people that were our clients.
So are you teaching yoga currently?
Yes. So right now I'm teaching Tuesdays and Thursdays at Texarkana Yoga. So Thrive closed down. I closed it in November. And now I'm teaching twice a week at Texarkana Yoga, which I really enjoy. And I'm doing some private sessions and like gigs here and there, which is really what I like. After a little over 4 years of ownership, it's nice to relax and just show up and teach. You know, I don't have the responsibility of schedules and all that jazz.
All the things that come with running a business and managing and finding subs. And so speaking of the closing of Thrive, I do have a few questions that we can jump to. Thrive was such an important space for so many people in Texarkana. So what empowered you to make the decision to close its doors? Because I'm so proud of you for doing that, because I know it was tremendously hard, but it like allows you to grow so much. So what empowered you to make that decision, and how has it allowed you to grow personally and professionally?
Well, thank you.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Mama Gaia Zen Garden, located in the mountains of Umpire, Arkansas. They offer handcrafted herbal remedies and nature-inspired camping experiences to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. One product I cannot live without is their soothing pain relief tonic. I use it every week for chronic pain, from arthritis in my hands, my knees, to herniated disc in my neck. It even helps me sleep better at night. Visit mamagaiaszengarden.com to shop their tinctures, skincare, herbal teas, and more. Don't forget to like and follow their Facebook page. Thank you, Jackie and Skylar at Mama Gaia Zen Garden, for supporting today's podcast. Now back to the show.
Well, thank you. It was very difficult. It was a hard decision, but it was something I just knew needed to happen. I try to live my life very authentically and intuitively. And I had been getting, honestly, for the last couple of years, I kind of knew that it was going to come to an end at some point. I just wasn't sure how. And then even as recent as this summer, I knew that it needed to be completed. It was just not something that was meant to stay forever. So I think it was just my own journey of being really authentic to myself, really true to myself, understanding boundaries and how important it is to care for myself, and then experiencing the instability of trying to keep something going whenever it's not meant to keep going.
Yeah.
That finally brought me around to, okay, I can go ahead and do this. And I hated to do it. I hated to displace anyone. I didn't want anyone to lose a safe place or a comfortable place. But I also understand that everyone has their own journey. And I had to allow people to have their own journey and tend to mine. And in my journey, it was time to say goodbye to Thrive.
Yeah, I totally understand. And we made a similar decision to take a step back this year with the festival with Universal Vibe. And I completely understand that you have sometimes, I mean, there's so many chapters in our lives. And just because one closes doesn't mean it doesn't take back anything that came from that chapter.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
and as humans, we want to hold on, you know? We're like, oh, this was good. So I need to hold on to it.
Well, it's good for everybody that's going, but like it's ripping the owners apart, or like it's hard for us to continue on our healing journey when we're holding the container for everybody else to heal, you know? And I feel the same way with Universal Vibe all the time.
I was really proud too whenever I saw that.
Yeah, I feel like, but I've also felt like that's my mission or my calling, is to like hold this container and like hold this burden so that everybody else can enjoy it and grow and heal, evolve, and thrive. But at some point I have to, or I'm not going to make it, or it's not sustainable. So I can relate.
It's all learning and growing.
Yes. So super proud of you.
Thank you.
Glad you did it.
Thank you.
Glad that there's a potential new studio coming up as well. And
absolutely.
Super excited that you're teaching at Texarkana Yoga and your women's retreats, which we'll get into soon too. But looking back, what was your biggest takeaway or lesson from owning and running the studio?
Ooh, okay. So probably that it is so important to show up authentically as yourself. When we try and kind of fake it till we make it, so to speak, things just won't be smooth. They never will. I think one of my biggest takeaways was that it's so important to just be myself, be very real with people, be very honest. And when we do that, like, things are going to work out one way or another.
Yeah.
And when we start trying to control and manipulate, it's going to show.
Yeah.
So I would say that was one of my biggest takeaways. Also, be very careful on business partnership because it requires so much communication and just so much willingness to compromise and communicate really.
Yeah.
So that was another big takeaway. Communication is so important in any type of relationship, especially a business partnership.
Yes, absolutely. Communication is key in all relationships.
Yes.
And we almost created Universal Vibe into like a nonprofit, but you have to have a board of members and people that have to vote. And if we had made that board with the people that were with us in the first year or two, it would have been a disaster, you know, like, so we just took the burden all to ourselves. And I mean, it's still hard, but business partners, and we've learned that year after year. I keep looking at Cassie in the corner. I'm not supposed to. But we've learned to create those boundaries, and we've learned from some hard lessons.
Yeah.
So moving forward, you're doing some exciting things. You're hosting women's retreats. What inspired you to start them, and what was the most memorable moment from your first retreat?
Oh, okay. 1 second. I got to cough.
Go for it.
Okay. So I've wanted to do this for years. This has been something that's been on my mind for years. And the funny thing is that I've never even been to like a retreat that was solely connected to yoga.
Yeah.
I just knew I wanted to do it. I love to teach yoga so much. And I also love to care for and nurture people. So it just seems like a really natural thing for me. So it was kind of funny how this particular retreat business started. So my partner is Jessica Gray. She's the owner of Texarkana Yoga. And this past year, 2024, we each did a separate yoga teacher training through our studios. And so in the summertime, we were discussing the trainings. We've always, even from the very beginning, whenever we split off into Thrive, Jessica and I always kept like a level of communication so that we could just kind of check in with each other. Like we raised our prices at the same time. Like
it's a community, so it's really good that y'all kept that connection. We really
tried to, technically we were competition.
Yes, yeah.
But we have always valued collaboration over competition. And I think that's I think it's important in business, but then also because we're women and, we had that strong urge to work together instead of against each other.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the training, and I think it was like a casual text conversation, and somehow it came up like maybe we should do a yoga teacher or a yoga retreat together. And we met up at a coffee shop like a week later, and it just took off. And we had like 6 weeks, and we thought, can we get one in before the holidays? And we sure did. And we didn't even advertise it.
Yeah.
We just did it in-house. We offered it to people that were coming to our classes. And we had 12 women come, and it was amazing. We did it on Lake Hamilton in a really beautiful home. And my favorite part was Sunday morning. So the retreat went from Friday to Sunday. And Sunday morning, before everybody left, we went around and we had everybody talk about, how are you feeling as we wrap this up? And one lady, and I'm not going to say her name, of course, but at the beginning, I think her word, we had everybody say a word of how they were feeling. And on Friday evening, her word was guilt. Because she left her family at home. She left her husband and her kids, and she rarely did anything for herself. And her word on Sunday morning was free. She felt free. She was like, I understand now how important it is that I do things for myself and I take care of myself. So that'll make me tear up because it was just so special.
So it was a 3-day weekend?
It started at Friday night, and they'll usually start like this, Friday night at 6 to Sunday morning, like 10 or 11.
So what was like the normal day? Like what was the activities? Like you woke up and...
Oh gosh, it's really top secret. So I can't,
okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, that's fine too. Okay.
We did. So we started out, first of all, we overfed everybody.
Yeah.
Like that was the running joke the whole weekend. We fed them way too much food.
Yeah.
But we started out and we drank lots of coffee. I'm a big coffee fan.
Yeah.
We had a ton of coffee. We did yoga, asana practice, so the physical yoga practice. We did meditation, some light breath work, nothing too crazy yet.
Yeah.
We did some women's circles. We did yoga nidra. We did, what else did we do? We did like an energy alignment workshop. So this next one we're doing will be a little bit different, but a pretty similar itinerary.
Yeah. So what lessons did you learn from the first retreat that you're going to implement to the second one? What were some big takeaway moments of like,
the biggest,
I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that? Or
so the biggest one is probably we don't have to eat so much. So we literally were like,
what kind of food were you serving? Was it?
We did really healthy foods.
Yeah.
We did good comfort food. We probably went to every store in Texarkana and then Little Rock too.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to be cost efficient, but we did probably 80% organic and non-GMO, which was very important to me and Jessica.
Yes.
Because she's been on like a really powerful healing journey herself.
Yeah, she has.
She had breast cancer and she's been on a very powerful journey.
Yeah.
So we did really healthy foods and comfort foods, things that were yummy. And I actually owned a restaurant once upon a time long ago. And so cooking to me is fun, even though I don't do it that much. Yeah. And so that was one of the big things.
Food.
We don't have to eat so much.
Don't have to eat as much food.
Another big one was, honestly, it went so well. Like we did learn, it was little things. The little things, I think we want to do more sharing this time. Like we gave them a lot last time. We offered and led a lot, but this time we want to do more opportunities for everyone to share.
Yeah.
And talk.
So sharing is my favorite part of doing ayahuasca or doing the combo ceremonies or even the yoga teacher training that we did, I would think about, like, we would have YTT on the weekend, and I would think about all the things that we went through over the summer, and I would just be playing it over my head and like maybe tearing up at home, just thinking about talking in front of these women, and like the community and the circle and the sharing stronger than like any medicine I've ever had before,
absolutely.
So that's why I crave like these men's groups or cacao circles or whatever. I wish somebody else would host them so that I could just show up to them and share and cry. And it's just so powerful, because when do we ever do this? This is probably the longest you and I have really sat down and gotten to talk too, So
it is so
sharing
important.
is powerful.
It is such a powerful thing. I'm the same. I love to facilitate that.
Yeah.
I love to facilitate that a lot. So there will definitely be more of that. To come. And then I've been looking, and that might be something too that I look at offering just here in Texarkana more.
Like women's circles.
kind of like women's
stuff.
Circles. Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. Well, I guess I can't come to the women's. I'm always jealous when Yulia's doing her women's circles or women's cacaos and stuff. So anytime there's like an open cacao, I'm there. I'm coming, and she actually was like the first yoga class I'd ever taken was Yulia.
She's such a good teacher.
She's amazing.
Her voice.
She's phenomenal.
I love her Savasana.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to one of her power classes?
Maybe.
She will kick your butt.
Maybe.
And sound so sweet doing
it. She's the most sweetest, gentlest person.
I know. She is.
So when is your next women's retreat?
So our next women's retreat is March 7th through 9th, and we're doing it on the Caddo River in Glenwood.
Okay.
And we have 16 spots this time. We had 12 last time.
Wow.
We decided to just kind of ease in this time and offer a little bit more, because we felt very stable last time. It did not feel like a stretch to hold the space. And I think we have 8 for sure signed up right now, with 5 who are trying to work it out.
And you just launched
we
it
just
like
launched
3
it.
days ago.
That was, yeah.
That's
it's
amazing.
Exciting.
Yeah. So is it just you and Jessica that are going to be like the facilitators?
It's just us facilitating. We may at some point look at bringing in other people.
Yeah.
We definitely want to see what we're capable of doing first, and we would want to be really intentional about anybody that we bring in. And of course, there's a lot of amazing teachers. But
yeah, just
when you start doing that, then you're giving little pieces away.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Not that there's a need to control it, but more a need to make sure that the space is very pure for the intentions that we're setting.
And it's your business. It's like your baby, your dreams, so it's like you said earlier about choosing your business partners. And this is intimate. It's a 3-day weekend, like people being vulnerable, and you definitely want to have that space controlled and safe.
Yes.
So for somebody new to yoga or women's retreats, who may be intimidated or curious, what would be your advice to them?
My advice would be to just have an open mind and understand that nobody is expecting perfection. We played around at the last retreat, and we did like some inversions. We went upside down a little bit, but these are not retreats where we're expecting you to, turn yourself into a pretzel in the name of yoga and self-development. So I think just being really gentle with yourself. Like I think when I posted on Facebook, I put, you don't have to have any yoga experience to come to this.
Yeah.
All the yoga is for all levels. And one thing that's the strength of mine, and it's Jessica's as well, is being able to teach to all levels. And so I would say just be relaxed about it. If you feel the call, that's the thing too. If someone feels the call, they should listen to that.
Yeah. It's good advice.
Thank you.
I do recommend if anybody's, all teachers should is a strong word. All teachers should be able to teach to all levels, you know.
It's
So
helpful.
if a new person comes into a hot powered class at 8:45 at Texarkana Yoga and they don't know what to expect,
Yeah.
you know, like they might get their butt kicked, you know, and it might turn somebody off. They might be
Yeah.
like, this is yoga, you know. And there's so many different variations of yoga, so many
Yes.
different classes of yoga. So what's your favorite class to teach, and then what's your favorite class to attend?
Ooh. Okay. So my favorite class to teach is probably always going to be something that's more meditative. I love like a yin class where we're holding a pose for several minutes. And while it may not look physically challenging, although it certainly can be physically challenging
Yes.
depending on how deeply you go, it can be very mentally challenging. And so that's probably my favorite to teach.
What is yin yoga?
Yin yoga is a very passive type of yoga. Yin is another word for feminine. It's a passive style of yoga where you go deeply into basically a stretch, and you are holding it for several minutes for the purpose of, well, there's physical, mental, emotional benefits from it. To me, probably the biggest benefit is that we're teaching our body that we can withstand discomfort, that it's not going to last forever. And when we teach our body that, our mind starts to get on board with it as well. And I think that because life is inherently uncomfortable sometimes, yin yoga will serve us very, very well.
That's an awesome definition.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, way to put it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's probably my favorite type to take too. Although I
Okay.
will admit I do enjoy being challenged. So sometimes I do go to hot power classes
Yes.
and sweat and challenge myself to go a little further than maybe I have before. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
Exactly. That's it depends on the day and what mood I'm in for. But one thing I've learned from you and from the yoga teacher training is like I can show up to a hot powered class and do a yin class. I can show up and not move at all.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody needs to know about yoga is like you can show up and do the pose or come out of the pose or take a nap. There's been plenty of times I've taught a 6 a.m. class and people have slept through the entire class and I'm just still like leading and teaching, you know, so.
I slept through a hot power. Amber at Thrive one time in an 8:45 class. I went and I knew I needed to be there. I was like, I need to go. I need the heat. I need to get on my mat.
Yeah.
But I just laid there and went to sleep. I slept through the entire thing, and it was
Well, that's what
awesome.
you
And
needed.
nobody's gonna judge.
Yeah.
Like there's probably yoga studios somewhere out there that are much more structured and strict. But I think that's kind of old school. I
Yeah.
think the new era of yoga is very just inclusive to all, and understanding that we all excuse me, we all can gain something from this. We all just need to give ourselves what we need.
Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
trying to fit into the expectations of someone else.
Yeah. And it's a space for us to come to and to have that community, whether you're
Yes.
doing a handstand or just laying in savasana the whole
Yeah.
time. It's a place where people can come and like feel safe and be connected with like-minded people.
Yes,
So it's
I
so
love
much
that.
more than just the asana and meditation and the sound healing. It's a almost said church, but I'm trying to think of a different
It is.
word
It is.
for
It's
it.
like it can be a true community.
Yeah.
And I think that's what probably makes a great yoga studio is if people feel at home there,
Yeah.
if they feel safe.
Yeah.
So
So, how has hosting retreats allowed you to expand on the work that you started at Thrive?
ooh. Well, I think owning Thrive and teaching there, obviously I think I started teaching at the end of 2017. So, the whole time I'm just honing my skills, my skill set, becoming a better teacher, learning how to be more intuitive, learning how to be more in tune to those around me so I can really offer what everybody needs. And so I think that, that's probably just continued. Every time I go into a class, so this is a little controversial in the yoga teacher world. I feel like it's my practice. I don't plan my classes out. I may kind of have an idea of like a theme or a certain
Pose you may
pose I
want
want
to
to
get
work
to.
to, but I'm not ever writing out
Mm-hmm.
every pose of the class. And so to me, it's almost like it's my practice. And then everybody that comes to class, it's like, oh, thanks for coming to my practice today. You know, here we go. Whereas some people say, no, that's like selfish. You shouldn't do that. It should be all about the students. I'm like, well, it is. It is about the students, but they are coming here for a reason. There's something I'm offering that they need because I don't believe in accidents. I think we end up exactly where we need to be when we need to be there. So.
And when you're open like that and you let go of the structure and the index card with all the poses on it, like you're channeling what needs to come through, you know,
absolutely
for them or for that day. And when I first started teaching for the first year or two, I was writing down all my poses and back to what I said earlier about like making accommodations for people like beginners. Like if you're like, we're going to do this half moon warrior 3 standing split and we're going to do it in this order. Like you're not thinking about everybody else. And when you're more in tune and in flow, it just seems to come out better. So now, since this last yoga teacher training, I just show up and just teach yoga. And sometimes it's usually for myself or how I'm feeling or what I need. And when I'm open like that, I can ask other people like, or what would you like to work on today? You know, like back, leg, neck, what's bothering you versus having such a structured class. Have you ever taught chair yoga or senior citizen yoga?
I have. I don't have training in it. But I've looked up some things and I've taught it a little bit here and there. I think it's amazing.
What advice would you have for me?
Okay, to teach it?
I'm going to be teaching a free class a couple times a month at the Texarkana Parks and Rec.
That's so cool.
And it's supposed to be a beginner's level, but the people that have inquired said that they can't get on and off the ground. So it's probably going to turn into like a chair yoga. And I've done the same thing, just watching some YouTube videos. And
YouTube's an amazing thing. We can learn a lot there.
Yes.
And I know that you have the discernment to know, you know, what's beneficial to pay attention to or not. I would say my advice would be that you can do a lot more with the chairs than you think. And so you can still offer that variety. You can still offer the most very basic pose or asana, and then you can take it deeper or further for people that want to do that. The chairs are just a prop, just like the blocks, just like the bolsters, the straps. They're just a prop. And they can support a deeper practice as well as support a gentler practice.
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be some experimenting and showing up and learning, you know. I was supposed to sub for somebody that was doing Ageless Grace, which is like a senior citizen chair exercise.
Yeah.
And I had this whole idea of what I was going to do. And then the teacher showed up and I was like, I'll just sit in since the teacher's here. I was going to substitute. And I sat next to her and it was like chair Zumba. We were like dancing and like it was Halloween themed. So she's playing Halloween music and we're like throwing the toilet paper and like picking it up. And like these old people can like barely lift. And I was like, I didn't know what I was getting into. And there was like 12 old ladies there. And I would have been playing some sound healing and we would have been like breathing and stretching our legs.
It might not have been enough for them.
It might not have been. They were like ready to move.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm really glad that she was here. It kind of opened my eyes to what to expect in February when we start these classes.
I'm excited. That's really cool.
I'm excited. The Parks and Rec people, they're phenomenal. They're great. They do so much for the community. And that's who we work with when we rent out the Front Street Plaza for Universal Vibes. So we've connected with them a lot over the last couple of years. And man, they have all kinds of stuff for kids, and they do a bunch of good events out there and stuff too.
Well, if you ever need a sub for those classes, let me know. I'll be glad to go.
Okay.
I've taught a lot of free yoga in my life.
Yeah. I love doing free yoga.
You've heard me say many times, if I could just teach yoga and give it to everybody for free, I would.
Yeah.
Like, I wish we could just take the money out of it because everybody could benefit.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So we are ticking away
Okay.
on our time. So let's jump into plant medicines.
Okay.
How did you first discover ayahuasca?
Okay.
And what called you to explore it as part of your healing journey?
Okay, so I told you that I kind of started my conscious, I feel like we're on a spiritual journey all the time.
Mm-hmm.
From the time we're born into this body. But mine started in 2012, my conscious spiritual journey. I became aware that we were more than just a body and a mind. We're also a soul having a human experience. And so sometime between then and 2022, ayahuasca came into my awareness, but I was interested. And what I probably was interested in was that so many people used it to address like trauma and their own healing journeys. And I was on a healing journey for some trauma, like from childhood and my teen years. And so I was interested, but I wasn't like sold. I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And plus I had kids and I was like, I don't need to be going off to the rainforest, like into some hut, like drinking mud water.
Yeah.
But I was interested. And so it was kind of always there in my realm of awareness. And then in 2022, in like probably May, like early May 2022, I was taking a little scroll break on Facebook and saw an ad for Rhythmia, which is a kind of renowned ayahuasca retreat in Costa Rica. And for whatever reason, I clicked on it, even though I could tell just by the ad that this place was way out of my budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading about it, and it sounded amazing. And it was like 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, daily yoga, organic meals, daily meditation, life coaching classes, integration classes.
Wow.
And I was like,
the whole
if
package.
I was going to do ayahuasca, this is where I would need to go do it. It seemed safe, you know, it seemed they have like doctors and paramedics and nurses. And I was like, if I ever do ayahuasca, this is where I need to do it. So I'm like reading their website and I see a little button that says scholarship. And I was like, oh. So I clicked it and I applied for the scholarship. And not even a week later, they were like, okay, I did like an interview.
Wow.
I got a full paid scholarship to this place. It was $5,000 for a week. And they were like, yeah, all you got to do is come and we got you.
Yeah, so they didn't cover
here.
flight.
They did not cover my flight. I had to buy my own flight. They gave me a year to use the scholarship.
Wow.
I had a year, and they sent me, it's always either Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday. So there was a women's week. This was in May, I guess. And in June, mid-June, there was a women's week. And there's only one women's week a year, and then there's one men's week a year. So I knew immediately I wanted to do the women's week. Nothing against men, but when you're doing deep healing work, sometimes it's helpful to not mix the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Although it can be helpful too as well. But I was called to the Women's Week. So that's what I did. And it was powerful.
So did you do the dieta before and after?
I wasn't crazy strict with it.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty clean eater most of the time. I have my moments. But I kind of just I didn't give up coffee.
Yeah.
I didn't even give up coffee while I was there.
Yeah.
I drank coffee every morning.
They had coffee there, or?
Yeah, they had coffee there, and they suggested that you
just low dose.
Use it, either don't do it or use it in moderation. Yeah. And they were like, now, if you're going to get a headache, if you don't have your cup of coffee, have a cup of coffee. Well, I had a cup of coffee every morning.
Yeah.
But I did. I ate very lightly, like in the weeks leading up to it. I'm not like a super structured person. So I was like, well, I'll be okay.
So you didn't give up salt?
No.
100%?
No. In fact, I'm trying to remember, like, I think I just didn't eat meat maybe.
Yeah.
I think I didn't eat meat, and I can't really remember what else.
I hear different things about the dieta where some people are like so strict about it, and then some people aren't, and they're just fine. You know, so the first time I did it, I struggled to stop drinking coffee. I had never stopped drinking coffee ever in my life or caffeine besides maybe boot camp. And I was trying to stop for my first ayahuasca retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so hard. And didn't have any coffee there. And then the salt and like the sugar. And it really taught me something about like my cravings
Yeah.
because I was trying to do it. But also I was so scared
Mm-hmm.
to do ayahuasca. And they said the stronger you do the dieta, the more you give up, the deeper the experience. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to have a crazy,
Yeah.
super crazy experience,
How
you know?
deep
Like,
do I want to go?
yeah. But my second retreat, I did the dieta 30 days in advance. And I understand that the deep is different. It's like
Mm-hmm.
an understanding with
Yeah.
the medicine versus like I'm tripping, you know, having this crazy, overwhelming experience.
Mm-hmm.
The first time was overwhelming. And like, I felt like I had all this toxicity in me and I was just purging and thought I was dying and
Mm-hmm.
was like, I shouldn't have ate that chicken bacon ranch sub on the
Yeah.
way up here. You know, I should have listened to
Yes.
ayahuasca. And then the second time, it was like, oh, I gave this up in sacrifice to
Mm-hmm.
you so that you could work deeper on
Yeah.
my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt. And that second dieta, like the dieta, the ceremony starts when you decide to do the ceremony.
Yeah.
So during the dieta, I feel like I grew so much because I gave up cannabis and
Mm-hmm.
sugar and coffee and had a whole month of it to like really sit with my cravings and move past it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the best ayahuasca experience that I had. And I very little purging. Did you purge, like vomit whenever?
My purging, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know why. I never vomited
Hmm.
and I never had diarrhea.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I never did. My purging was the first night. This is so weird. The first night, I kept running my fingers through my hair,
Yeah.
like all night long. I was just like it was in Costa Rica. It was very humid. I have a lot of hair, so I was just running my fingers through my hair. And when the ceremony was over, there was like a wad of hair.
Oh wow.
And I was thinking about it. That's one way to purge.
Yeah,
Right? Like I was
you're
getting rid of all that. I
shedding.
was shedding, literally shedding. And then I did have a lot of snot.
Yeah.
Like I was very snotty. And I coughed a lot and I cried a lot.
Yeah.
That was my biggest purge. I
Yeah.
cried and I cried.
Yeah. So purging can come in so many different
Mhm.
ways. People can
Yeah.
scream, cry, sweat,
Oh, yes.
shake, yell, cough, burp,
Yeah.
sneeze. Like we've seen it all with
Yeah.
our combo ceremonies
Mhm.
and in ayahuasca. Like purging isn't just vomiting and diarrhea, even
Mhm.
though
Those are kind of the prolific
yeah.
purges.
I used to be so scared of throwing up during
Mhm.
ayahuasca and combo, but now like I really enjoy that release. I feel like I get
Mhm.
such an energetic release and such a
Yeah.
healing from it, from that purge. But so was each night similar or was each night kind of different? Because for me, every single time I drank ayahuasca was different.
Yeah, every night was really different for me. I was gonna say too, I have like a little bit of a theory on the purging. The physical purging. I don't think it's just about what we eat. Like it's literally taking heaviness out of our cells, out of the cells of our body. And I had been on such a strong healing journey for so long. One of my big practices, or one of my main practices, is energetic clearing. And I had done a lot of that, like a lot. And so I kind of think that might be why I didn't have the typical purge.
Yeah.
Because I'd literally been clearing junk out of my cells for a long time.
Yeah.
Energetically. So yes, every night was really different. We had 4 ceremonies. You want me to tell you about them?
Sure, yeah. Give me one or two
Okay.
profound
Okay, so a couple
experiences.
of the most profound experiences for me. The first night, I drank, they give you like a little shot glass, and then you
Mhm.
go up to the shaman. They do it's a whole cool thing. I feel like if people are called to it, they should definitely do it.
Did you start getting nervous when people started everybody's dressed in their white and they're sitting around, and the shaman walks in and the first person goes up to get the ayahuasca. And then I'm like,
I was like the last person in line.
Me too. And I was like, I'll be right here next to the shaman in case I die. I'm like,
I
I'm
got
good,
close to the shaman. So we were in like a big temple, or Maloka, they called it. And we all had like a nice, like little mattress with a nice sheet on it, and a blanket and a pillow and a bucket and a roll of toilet paper.
A wellness bucket.
So I got close to the shaman. I was the last one in line. I drank 2 of my little shot glasses, and I was having like the time of my life. I was on my mattress under the blanket. I was laughing. It was kind of like doing ecstasy, to be honest. Like that's how it felt. Like I just had this amazing experience of like energy going through my body. It felt so good. And then I kept having this thought like I should get another cup. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like I don't need any more. And but it was telling me to. The ayahuasca was telling me to. So I went up and I asked for another cup, and the shaman's helper said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're closed for the night." And I was like, "Okay," like because we were too close to the end of the ceremony. And I went back to my mattress. I was like, "Ooh, okay, good." Well, then the actual shaman, like the head shaman, came over, and gave me another cup. And I was like, "Ooh, okay." And so I drank it, and it all changed, and it went really dark. It went really dark, and all I can really, anybody that hasn't done ayahuasca, well, it's a journey, it's a trip, right? And I started to feel like I was giving birth. That's what it felt like. I had pain all over my body, and I felt like I was in childbirth, which I had done at that point 3 times. And so I started to feel like I was trying to give birth, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is not fun anymore. This is not fun. But it was weird because instead of giving birth with like the pressure downward, as if I'm going to push a child into the world, the pressure was coming up. So it was like there was a memory coming up into my awareness. There was a knowing coming up into my awareness. And so finally, I was the last one there that night. Like they ended the ceremony. Wow. I was still fully in my journey. They sent one of the shamans over to like sit by me. She was like an angel. And so finally what happened was a memory came into my awareness from when I was little. I'm not going to share it just because it involves somebody else. But what the memory represented was a breaking of trust. And so what I realized through that memory and through that journey that night, the first night, was that I did not trust. I didn't trust people. I didn't trust God. I didn't trust the universe. I didn't trust anything or anyone. And that was really profound because if we don't trust, we can't relax. And if we don't trust, we can't allow. And so that was my first big, profound experience with the ayahuasca. And then I would say the second and probably even more profound one was in the second night, I was given some really cool information about my children. So I was told that my daughters are like my soul sisters and that we come into lifetimes together to support one another. And that in this lifetime, our deal was that I would support them as they grew up and I would support their early life. And then it would switch. And when I'm old, they'll support me. Yeah. And it was really sweet and precious.
That's beautiful.
And then I was given the knowledge that my son was my greatest teacher, which was really cool. And that was before he died. This was about a month before he died. And I was told, I was given that knowing that he's my greatest teacher, that he is here to help me learn what I came here to learn, to make sure I learn it. And I interpreted that a little differently because I had come to realize in that past year that when I'm good, my kids are good. When I'm taking care of myself, my kids are cooperative, they're loving, they're sweet, they're kind. And when I'm unstable, like they are chaotic and they have a hard time. And so I had started to understand that really clearly. But then I was given that information and it felt so profound and I was so excited to kind of move forward in life. with that new knowledge of who they were to me and why we were here together.
Yeah. That's such a blessing that
such a blessing.
ayahuasca gives you. And it's funny that you were feeling the ecstasy and feeling the good feelings of ayahuasca, and then that last cup, took you to that dark place where you needed to go.
I needed
to learn that lesson. And that's what I want people to know about plant medicines, is that it can make you feel good and be ecstasy and like all this healing, but like healing comes through work, and it's not fun, and it's hard. And the plant medicine path is an extraordinary and it's difficult path.
Oh yeah.
So speaking about Luke, you mentioned that he's your greatest teacher. Can you share some of the lessons that he's taught you through this experience of his passing?
Well, so I would say one of the biggest ones that kind of sticks out to me that I like to share with people, because I think that, this is something we may know or think about, but one of the biggest lessons I think he's taught me is that we don't take anything with us when we die. We come to earth with nothing. We're literally just a little human naked body, and we leave the same way. Nothing goes with us because all his stuff's still here.
Yeah.
His bicycle, like his skateboard, his hoverboard, all that stuff that he had, his PlayStation, like it's still here. None of it went with him. And what that tells me is that the stuff we accumulate on our human journey is just not important. It's what we do with and for others that's so important. It's how we treat other people. And that is a gift. Like I know that in the deepest way possible because of him.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
So how has your relationship with Luke evolved since his passing, and how do you feel his presence in your life today?
So it has definitely evolved. I think a lot of people have a false belief that when someone dies that they're gone, and that is not true.
Yeah.
We are souls having a human journey, and our souls are eternal. The human body is impermanent. It dies, but the soul is eternal. And so I knew that before, and I'm really grateful that I knew that before. But I know it now in a deeper way, and I know it in a way that I'm willing to tell people that, and I'm willing to share it because there's no doubt in my mind. I've also kind of come to feel and see Luke as not only my child, because here he was my child. He was my little boy, and he was a very typical little boy in some ways, although he was absolutely a sweetheart. And now I see him more as like a peer, kind of like I see, soul family is a real thing. We have souls that we come and we connect with and we collaborate with, and I see him in that light. It's kind of cool. I actually even sometimes like get an image of him like kind of grown up or something. He's like this really tall. He looks like a surfer guy or something. It's really cute. Yeah. So I would say it's evolved in that way, that I see him as more than just an 8-year-old little boy, which is the last time I saw him in his body. That's what he was. He was an 8-year-old little boy. And now I see him as a really powerful soul who helped a lot of people learn some really important things. And I just see, I see him when we die, like our life it's just beginning, really. Like this is just such a small part of who we really are here. So that's,
So how do you integrate these lessons in your daily life through plant medicine and yoga and grief? What are some tips to integration, or how do you feel you've evolved with your integration of all of these lessons?
I think that what has helped me integrate more than anything is being very intentional. Like I try to be intentional with everything I say, everything I do, every move that I make in my life. Having the intention, and whatever that intention is, my intention could be to, my intention is to just remind people of how loved and worthy they are, and remind people of what's really going on here, which is that we are not just bodies. We are not just talking skeletons with with skin. And so being very intentional about the way I speak and the way I act and the way I interact with others, that's my integration. That's understanding that everything I've gone through, everything that's happened to me or for me or around me is and was this journey that I'm on, you know?
Mm-hmm. So if you could go back to the beginning of your healing journey, what's one piece of advice or something that you would tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a good one. I would probably, I would tell myself that it's so important to be present. When we are truly present, when we're existing only here and now, there is like really no past or future. And past and future is what kind of creates anxiety and stress in us, you know, wanting to be seen as good or wanting to be able to change something we maybe did that we're not proud of. That doesn't exist when we're very present. And that's really a wonderful way to live your life. And so I think that would be it, to learn, because that's something I've just recently learned, like the importance of being very, very present. I would go back. I would tell myself that.
That's great advice. Just everything's safe right now. Like when we went through what we went through this past year, I just kept thinking about my yoga teacher training, and I would just have to focus on like the here and now. And that kind of takes me to like a gratitude practice of like being grateful for what we have. It kind of refocuses your train of thought to like, I have abundance, like I'm healthy, everything's okay right now in the present moment, versus stressing about the future or being depressed about the past, things that we cannot change.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Just the mantra of I'm safe has just really anchored me down and been a seatbelt.
I'm so glad to hear that. You know, we started out our teacher training, we started that out with that, like definitely on purpose, because when you create safety, when you create a sense of safety for someone, you really can't limit them after that. Like that's the only reason why we hold ourselves back, is because we're afraid. You know, when you create that sense of I'm safe, I'm stable, I'm secure here and now in this moment, we can do anything from there.
So we got time for maybe like one more question.
Okay.
So your women's retreats, teaching a couple classes a week at Texarkana Yoga. What are you looking forward to the most this year or 3 years from now? Like what are some goals or some plans that you have?
Okay, so probably the one that I hold closest to my heart that I don't share all the time is writing. So I have like 3 different book outlines
What?
that I've started. I love to write, and I just need to sit down and do it. Life just gets busy.
I understand. So what are they going to be, like novels or like self-help planner?
Kind of self-help,
write
nonfiction.
Your affirmation.
There's actually like a word.
Nonfiction.
It's some kind of nonfiction. It's
there's some term.
Yeah, there's some kind of
for
specific term, and it's I don't know it at the moment, but they're all nonfiction. Like one is focused on grief, particularly grief when you lose a child. And I see that one. I would like to be able to help women that are in my shoes with that, because I do, in a parent group I'm in, I just see mothers and fathers that are really struggling.
Could only imagine.
They feel broken. You know, they feel like a piece of them has been torn away and they're just still bleeding out. And they don't really have maybe the spiritual, I don't want to say spiritual knowledge. They just don't have this belief.
Practice,
they
or
don't
like
have
the structure or the tools.
Yes.
Like,
and so I think that I could maybe help them to find more peace. And then another one is just about parenting in general, like on the spiritual path. Something like the parenting path or something, where we are parents, but we're also on this really conscious spiritual journey through life, and we're navigating that as a parent. and how our kids can really help us a lot, because my kids have changed everything for me. My oldest daughter, bless her heart, she has she's seen it all with me. You know, she saw the early version of me that was not very healthy, and she's kind of watched me grow into somebody that I'm pretty proud of, and I know she is too.
And she's doing amazing
She's
things.
doing amazing. She's at college. She's in her first year of college at UT. She did really great. She was number 10 in her class. She's
Texas High.
At Texas High. She is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then of course my littlest one, Laurel, my 4-year-old, she gets the best version of me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Typically, I still have my moments, but
yeah, I understand.
And then probably the third book that I know I have an outline on is just about kind of how to navigate life, a really basic, almost like a manual of how to have a good life, using spiritual tools and practices like yoga, meditation, breath work, mindfulness. So those are all things those are little projects that I don't talk about very much. But they're there. And so now that I've talked about them on here, I need maybe I'm trying to push myself.
People are going to hold you accountable for it now.
Yeah.
They're gonna be when's the books coming out, Brittany?
Right?
Yeah, we'll be checking in and asking you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the first episode of the podcast.
You're welcome. I'm really, really honored that you asked me to do the first one. I appreciate it. You know I love y'all.
Yeah, we love you and honored to know you and to have grown with you, and for you to be a part of Universal Vibe and us part of Thrive and everything in between, and
and more to come.
All the things to come. We're just getting started.
Absolutely.
So many things to come. So to the listeners, check out Brittany Carder on Facebook, Texarkana Yoga, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Women's Retreat, March 7th through the 9th. And anything else you want to share?
Anybody that's interested in any of that can just follow my socials. We built a website for the retreat business. I don't have one for myself yet. That's not what I'm good at.
Yeah, it's all a lot.
But just stay tuned.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.